What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Hold on, y'all. Let me fix my hair because we got some flyaways, chair. Hold on, Lord. Listen, if you can see me and you can hear me, that means today is Tuesday. And it is time for the Minding My Business podcast. So y'all already know what to do. Put in your city and state. Let me know where you are listening and watching. If you are chiming in from another country, put that in there. We know we got Greensboro in the building. Always GSO is in the house. Y'all put your city and state in. And for those of you who may be new, let me just lay out the ground rules. And if you're watching the replay, be sure to let us know where you're chiming in from and just put replay either at the beginning or the end of your comment. Let me bring my microphone a little bit closer, Chad. So we are live 125%. And for those of you in the chat, when you have questions, when you have comments, put them in the chat. Let's light it up. I tell everybody, my chat, the folks that are in my chat are lit, okay? We have a good, there's a T on the end of that. And I know my educator is in the building in Clarkton, North Carolina, but I'm still going to put a T on the end of that. We have a good time every Tuesday. If you have not let your friends know that we are live, message them now. Make sure you send them the link. Tell them to subscribe and turn on their notifications. Because y'all know I'm bilingual. So let me hit the ebonics. We've been to have us a conversation on tonight. Okay. And I'm so excited about the conversation. I'm about to jump the gun because there's people who watch and they're like, okay, I see you, but who are you, ma'am? So let me tell you, because I like good questions. So my name is Nishika Melton. And as someone who used to think that being overwhelmed and stretched out and running around like a chicken with its head cut off was how you became successful, I learned that is not the recipe. Actually, that will kill you. So what I do as a simplified productivity coach, I help you eliminate, first of all, identify, and then eliminate the unproductive hacks that do not benefit you. I help you cut the chaos, create the vision, the strategic plan, and the implementation so that you get to the place and the level of success that you want to be at. Okay. That's what I do as a coach. Now, y'all, the lady that I'm going to bring on stage, when I first heard her talking about this topic, it was only the second time in my life that I had ever heard this word, perimenopause. I had heard about menopause because, child, people having hot flashes and old folks would say, you just wait till you live long enough. But perimenopause? What is that? And why? Why is that? We don't know. We don't know why it is. It's God do what he do. But we're going to find out today what it is from a perimenopause expert. Now, the lady that I'm about to bring on, she is not a doctor, but she has gone through it. She did her research and she took those doctoral, scientific, medical, blah, 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 that can't nobody understand. Okay, those are the things that you read when you can't sleep. And she broke it down in a manner that anybody can understand. And what I want to take place is for these conversations to happen in every household, not just amongst the women. I don't know why people think this is just a woman problem. Because depending on your system, your symptoms, let me bring my mic close. Baby, it's everybody problem, okay? Depending on what you're going through, what everybody in the house might get snatched. Don't even play. Depending on your symptoms, everybody in the house might get snatched. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me get my media stuff ready. Y'all know I'll be coming in late with my sounds, child. Coming in late. Let me bring to the stage Miss Daria. And first of all, y'all, let me tell you something. Daria is in IT, but she ought to be in radio because she has that voice. Y'all remember on the radio before we all got saved, when they would have the quiet storm and the person would come on with that soothe, that's Daria. That's Daria. She should be the radio edition of the quiet storm. Y'all gonna find out when I bring her on because she has that voice. So to the stage, Miss Daria Rosen.
Thank you, Nishika, for inviting me today to Minding My Business Mic Drop. I am glad that to be here with you. I am glad to be here with your guests. And so today, I want to share a story. This will be the first time it's been heard. So
Oh,
I'm
oh,
going.
oh, that gets the sound. Hold on. That gets the sound. What sound am I gonna get for that? Oh, wait a minute. That was long enough.
That's okay.
There we go. Okay, go ahead and drop it, Daria.
Okay, so I am going to read this because this will tell me about me and it will tell me about you.
Okay.
There was a time not too long ago when I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. My eyes looked tired the way concealer couldn't soften. Stress had settled into my face and body. The woman who once glowed effortlessly felt muted, dimmed, almost gone. It wasn't just the reflection, it was the feeling. I was holding up a world, family, caregiving, work, responsibilities, and somewhere between the late nights and the early mornings, I had slowly disappeared from my own life. And then came the moment that cracked everything open. After decades of loyalty to my career, I was furloughed and then quietly replaced. Someone younger, someone cheaper, brought in to do the work I had poured myself into for years. The loyalty I was given so freely was not returned, and the identity I had built around being dependable, hardworking, irreplaceable, shattered. But the moment that finally broke me wasn't the layoff. It was the day the cable and the internet shut off. A simple notification, but it hit like the truth. I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. I was drowning behind a smile. And I was avoiding the one question I needed to ask. Who am I now? In that moment, standing in the stillness of my home, I whispered a sentence that changed everything. I can't live like this anymore. And something inside me shifted. I no longer wanted to be the woman who survived. I wanted to be the woman who rose. So I rebuilt myself emotionally, physically, hormonally, spiritually, slowly, gently from the inside out. Not trying to return to who I used to be, but becoming someone wiser, softer, stronger, and more radiant. And as I moved through it all, I realized something other women needed to hear. What I felt wasn't failure. It wasn't weakness. It wasn't getting older. It was menopause, and no one had prepared me for it. So, because midlife isn't the end of your glow, it's the beginning of your golden era. And I am here to walk you through every step of it.
Mm, I tell you, the stories that I hear about women going through, and listen, and some men that are brave enough to admit the symptoms that they experience, it it shakes them. It shakes the core of who they are, and they are trying to figure out, who am I right now? Because when I was walking somewhere, or might have been in the car with my husband, like this past week, and it was cold. And this woman had a fan around her neck. It had been 30 degrees. I said, "Oh, she having a personal summer in the middle of winter." It's real life.
It's real life. It is
Real
real
life.
life.
So, Daria, tell us about you. Introduce yourself.
That was my story. But I help women beat the heat,
Mm,
regulate sleep, and clear the fog as they go through this journey. But I wrote that story about me because, as Nishika shared at the beginning, I have spent multiple decades in IT, taking that technical stuff and communicating it and translating it to non-technical people, the nurses, the doctors. They have a technicality of something else. But when I was going at the very beginning of this journey, I
mhm,
started asking, because I was one of those corporate, I made the decision, I don't wish to get married. I'm going to climb the corporate ladder, not thinking about children, husbands, all of that. However, at 39, I find a young man finally convinced me to marry him. And so we decided to have children. But I fell ill and I wasn't able to. And so during that whole process, I started asking other women, has anybody told you about what's going on in your body, what's going to happen? Because most of us, someone told us when our cycle was going to start, but nobody or rarely anyone shared what's going to happen when your cycle ends. Now, here's
mhm,
a segue. I wrote this book about perimenopause based on the conversations with younger women because they said no. No one said, but we know that it typically happens 50s and 60s. And it's like, it's earlier than that. And it was because of that that there were so many people who did not know what was going to happen, what could happen. And I said, you can't make a good decision unless you have all the information. And because my life has been the difficult stuff to make it simple and plain, I did write the book, Perimenopause, What Your Mother and Girlfriends Did Not Tell You, because I wanted to be like the girlfriend or the auntie who was there to just share with you that there's a lot that could go on. There's some people who have it badly, some don't. But when I wrote the book
mhm.
back in 21, I believe it was, nobody was talking about it. And then I chickened out. I let corporate get in the way and I said, you know what? I'm really not going to talk about it a lot. And so, as you all know now, you see it all the time. You're seeing more of it. But even though we are seeing more of it, people are still feeling shame because they feel like They don't know. They laugh at the things that people share, but when it comes down to individuals, they're scared when they see that things are different. Is it something else? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not just hot flashes, it's not just brain fog, it's not just night sweats and those type of things. There's the sleep. All of those are the ones that most people know, but there are over 100 symptoms. So each of us is different,
Oh, wow.
and each of us could be experiencing something that you tend to think, what's wrong? So that's about me in a long nutshell.
So I heard you say, and we do have a little bit of a lag, but I heard you say that there are over 100 symptoms. That's a lot.
It is a
I,
lot.
I didn't, I mean, I've heard about hot flashes. I've
Uh-huh.
heard about when the last time I heard you speak was the first time that I had heard about the brain fog. So what is the brain fog? Because there's all kinds of I've hear women talk about different types of brain fog after you ate. There's really tired. There's a brain that has there. But what is the brain fog that's associated with perimenopause? How do women describe that?
Well, it's not just aging, forgetting where you put something. As I shared with you, I've lost my phone today. Don't have the foggiest idea where it is. That's just one thing. But it's when you are not, you can tell, when you're not firing on all cylinders. If you are having to do, for those of you who are entrepreneurs or who are in corporate and you have to give a presentation, when you are not just with it, things are not coming the way that they normally do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lapse. It's like when you're tired. We don't think as well when we're tired. And when I go to tired, when you have a home, it has to have a good foundation. And all of us have heard we need to get our rest. And that's definitely true for everyone. We need our rest. That is our foundation. That is when we sleep, when we get our rest, that is when our bodies repair. That
Mm-hmm.
is when all of the hormones, some hormones lower at night when we're sleeping, others raise. But it's during the repair. So for my techie people, if you have um, a Windows computer and you've heard about defragging, that's kind of what your body does at night when you're sleeping. It sent out packets all day. You've used the computer, information goes out in packets, but yet when you refrag, it brings them all together where they're supposed to be. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what our body does. So if we're not sleeping, that's we're not getting refragged. My favorite analogy about sleep, we all have cars or know someone who has cars. Most of
Mm-hmm.
us do.
Yes.
If something doesn't go well, we take it to the shop and we give them
Yes.
the list of things that are not working properly. They call us back the next day and say, okay, Miss Nishika, we've got your car. And you come in, you're ready to pay for it, and they say, well, this item we only fixed 10%. This one we did 50%. This one we didn't touch at all. This one we did 100%. You would not put down your credit card to take that car
Mm-mm.
out of the shop.
Mm-mm.
That's what we're doing to our bodies when we're not
Wow.
sleeping. We're not letting it get repaired fully.
So and that feeds into what I talk about as a productivity coach, how important sleep is, and for us to come off of this hustle culture that says you got to stay up all night and all that kind of stuff. So here's another piece of that puzzle, that when we're not getting the proper rest, then we're also, as women, impacting our bodies even more, because of all the hormonal things that are taking place in our body. So Daria, what's the typical, because I know some people may start sooner, some later. What's the typical age range that a woman would start, if if she were paying attention? Let me word it like that, because there's sometimes we have symptoms and we just kind of like, we just brush it off. But we may actually be going through perimenopause. So what's that age range typically?
Typically, it is your early 40s to mid 50s, some 34 to 54, and
Okay.
there is a small percentage, and I believe it's 1%, that it even begins as early as their 20s.
Oh,
So, if we don't know these things, if we don't tell someone, if when I say someone, if we don't just talk girlfriend to girlfriend in the
mhm.
families with if we don't say anything, no one knows. And someone may think, "Oh, I've got years. I don't have to worry about perimenopause. That's for older gray-haired women." It's like, no. It it can be for younger women. And when I say we need to speak about it, like you said in the very beginning, we need to talk about it within our families. In the book, there's an analogy about those of you who have sons or brothers growing up. You knew when their voices started changing and they
Yep.
squeaked and were low and high. Everybody talked about it. Everybody laughed about it at the dinner table because they'd open their mouth to say something and it would come out not the way they were
Right.
expecting. But we don't have that same conversation with
Mhm.
our daughters and our nieces. It's like our bodies and the symptoms that we undergo are taboo, even amongst ourselves. Where many are embarrassed to go in and buy pad sanitary items. We start
Mhm.
off that way, so it's really not surprising that that same embarrassment and shame carries on all the
Mhm.
way to the other end. And that's the part we need to break. And that is that shame. God created us
Yes.
and He made us perfect. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. He was not surprised. We shouldn't be surprised, and we should stand in what and how we were created. So that's the part that the shame, the uplifting of one another in this journey. You've had children. I have
Yes.
not. But I know, I bet that when you were pregnant, you shared with your girlfriends, you shared with your aunts what symptoms you were having, and you laughed, and people would say, "Oh, this lasted this long for me." When you had the baby, you tell how long we were in labor, and everybody laughs. It's just normal conversation. But when it comes to I'm having extra heavy cycles or I'm not having cycles, we shrink back, we say not a word because I think we are fearful and we're ashamed. Fearful, one, that it could be something, and we start Googling
Oh
what.
Lord. That WebMD will make you think you have five different kinds of fatal sicknesses that Lord have mercy.
Exactly,
Drive
exactly,
you crazy.
exactly. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I've got this strange disease. No, honey, it could just be one of those hormones that is starting to lessen. It could be one of those symptoms. One of those unusual symptoms about ringing in the ears or metallic taste in the mouth. Nobody would, I mean, you don't go and have a conversation with someone and say, I've been tasting very metallic. It's just not something that we do.
Okay, now wait a second. You said ringing in the ears is a symptom of perimenopause?
Yes,
I can't tell you how many people, how many women I have heard mention a ringing in their ears, and I didn't know it was associated
it
with
is.
and you said a metallic taste. So what is that? How do you know it's like a metallic taste? Like what is that taste like? How do you
You,
identify that?
you know what? That is, I did not have that symptom. You're not going to have all the symptoms. Some
Right.
people might not, but it's funny. I don't know, other than in reading that women were saying it tastes like metal. It tastes like
Wow.
metal. It tastes like metal. Who knew?
Wow.
Who knew? And
And
those,
here's the other thing. I got to go back to this ringing of the ears
okay,
because that's ringing of the ears also follows under tinnitus. I think is what it's called.
yes,
And so you could be waved off and almost kind of like misdiagnosed if the doctor is not familiar. So and you have to tell your story, Daria, because when I first heard about you and the train sounds, and I like to, I was halfway shocked and crying from laughter because I was like, and let me say what I said. What? And so after you tell your story, because I don't want to forget my question, after you tell your testimony, your real life, then I want you to tell the audience, was it your primary care physician that diagnosed you, or was it your gynecologist that diagnosed you? Okay, now drop the bomb on everybody. Y'all got to listen. Y'all have to hear this. Yeah, because I like to fell out.
so my first hot flash story.
Hmm.
I want you to imagine the shopping mall in your city and your location. It's usually got large streets, major thoroughfares. It's nowhere near a train track. It was, and there's usually traffic, lots of traffic, doesn't matter when. So it was in the wintertime, and my husband and I were going down our main boulevard, and all of a sudden, I could hear a train coming. Now, I live in the city. I know there's not a train track, but I could hear a train. And so I said, "Do you hear the train?" He said, "No." And all of a sudden, I started getting warm. I took off my coat. The train is getting louder. I'm like, "Are you sure you don't hear that train?" He said, "No." And I take off my sweater because I'm getting warm and I'm hearing this train. This train is getting louder. And I'm trying to figure out, why would I be hearing a train by the mall? And why am I getting so warm? I take off my shirt. Now, I'm very, very reticent. And it was light. I mean, it was evening, but it was light outside. So the people in the cars could see me pulling clothing off. And when I got to my shirt, my husband looked at me. "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I am hearing a train and I am getting hot." And I laughingly say, if that hot flash had gotten any hotter, I would have snatched off my bra because I was trying my best to cool off. And just as the heat flash diminished, the train sound went away. So for me, whenever I had a hot flash, that was my cue. It sounded like a train was coming. Some people describe theirs as like when you listen to a shell at the ocean, how
Uh-huh.
that sound, that wave comes in and then it goes back out. But I heard a train. So I always knew I could be sitting here talking to you. And as soon as I started to hear the train, hmm, we're getting ready to have a hot flash.
Oh, so you still hear a train now? Like when you're getting ready to have a hot flash, you still hear a train?
Very, very lightly. I don't really have them anymore, but very
Okay,
lightly.
good.
If I do start to overheat, then yes, I do. But yeah, that's
So,
so.
so we have a question that they want to know. Did you actually take your shirt off, Daria?
Yes, ma'am. I
So
took
the answer
off,
is yes.
yes, I took off 3 layers: a coat, a sweater, and a shirt. All I had left was my brassiere. And that was about next because I was burning up. And so I always tell people layering is not just for cakes. If you are in this season, you need to make sure you need to make sure that you have layers so that you can take things off. Because can you imagine if I had just only had on one thing?
Your husband would have fell all the way out. Been like, oh my gosh.
He was falling out anyway as he's watching me strip as we're going down the road, down the boulevard. So, yeah.
Y'all, that's why I wanted her to tell this story. Tell her testimony. This is not a story, this is a testimony. Yes, she took off her shirt. Yes, she was hearing trains where there were no tracks. Lord
Yes.
have mercy. So, who diagnosed you with perimenopause?
I was not diagnosed with perimenopause. I am
Oh,
one of the people, I never was diagnosed. I actually had stage 4 endometriosis. And so I ended up having to a have surgery. So I was put into menopause surgically. And because they took my ovaries at the same time, mine was more
mm,
immediate until all of the
mm.
hormones, left the body. But those same symptoms, I did have some of the symptoms. The other thing, and this is what I want you to think about. You got to listen to your body. When your cycle's coming, most of us could tell. We'd feel bloated, we'd feel moody, our skin would break out, something. The same thing is true in regard to perimenopause. You know your body. You've lived in your body however old you are. You know it
Yes.
better than any doctor. But we tend, like you said earlier, we tend not to pay attention to, we're too busy doing whatever to really pay attention to, I had a hot flash. Start looking at what was I doing? What happened before? Did I eat something? My hot flashes were triggered by hot sauce. I made the conscious decision because I love hot sauce. I didn't care. I was not giving up my hot sauce. Some people, it's the hot beverages, hot tea, hot coffee. Some is alcohol. But if you aren't listening to your body and either capturing it, and you know what, we really have no excuse not to capture things. We all have these phones, these
Yep.
computers that we can do a
Mm-hmm.
voice memo. If you don't want to take the time, do a voice memo and say, I had a hot flash, and this is when, so that you can start to see what your patterns are. If you've got your patterns, then you can make the decision. This whole journey is about decisions. Some are outside of our control, but others are. Like I said, I did not give up my hot sauce. I refused.
But you figured out that the hot sauce was a trigger for your hot flashes. So we have a question in the chat, and it's
Okay.
actually a two-part question.
Okay.
Um, the first part is, does it begin generationally? Like, have you read about patterns in families where the women start at certain times or same symptoms, maybe?
Wonderful question. And yes, there is proof that it is generational. And so I recommend talk to the women in your family, talk to your sisters, your mother, your grandmother, your aunts, whatever females are still there, and ask them, how old were you when you started to notice? What symptoms did you start to have? Because there are families where they talk about stuff all the time, and so everybody knows and everybody laughs. Big mama's got the fan, so they know that. But there are others where it is just silent. Again, there's this shame, and particularly within our culture, we don't tend to share those
Yeah.
many of those things. And unless somebody truly just comes out and asks, Mom, when did you start going into perimenopause? Or when did you start noticing symptoms and what were they? We know that when there are other, this is not a disease, it's just life. But we
Yeah.
know that when things go on with us, who do the doctors, what do they ask you? Anybody in your family have,
Yep.
there's a whole list,
Yep.
because there are propensities. So by all means, for the first part of that question, yes, generational, ask the women in your family.
So the other part of the question is, what are some of the other unusual symptoms that you have read about or maybe even experienced?
So is some of the other symptoms, and I was fortunate. I didn't have many symptoms. I had hot flashes. That's basically it. Um, but, and in fact, when you talk about, I should have had it here because I do have it on. I've got some of the 8 unusual actually on the website, but
Okay.
there are, and the two that stand out, because I have just drawn a blank. We've gone brain fogged as to out of that 100.
This is real life right here. Real life. We
This
are
is
experiencing
serious.
the brain fog.
Yes, indeed. Um, look, ask me another question. I'll come back to that one.
Okay, no problem. So I also want to mention that we do have some men on the podcast right now, and they're saying that they love hearing the fact that we're talking about this because they do have daughters. But I had also mentioned earlier that there are some men who have been brave enough to mention the fact that they've gone through some of these symptoms. They have experienced the hot flashes and the brain fog. I wish I could come across somebody who tasted the
The
metallic
metal.
taste, because that is intriguing to me. Like, what do you feel dehydrated? Like, what is that like?
That I don't know. But the closest that I can imagine that that would be is all of us have probably experienced a funny taste in our mouth.
Yeah.
And when you ask someone, it's like, well, it's a funny taste in my mouth. I'm not really sure what it is. Um, and I think most of us have experienced that, but I can't imagine what it tastes like, what metal tastes like. So that's
Right.
actually a
And
very, very good question.
that's what makes it so interesting because I've never, like as a child, I know what dirt tastes like. I remember
Hmm.
that because I mean we played around, but a metallic taste is just intriguing. So we did get another question. What's the difference between perimenopause and menopause?
Wonderful question. So the difference between perimenopause and menopause. Perimenopause, let me start with the end.
Okay.
Menses, that's our menstrual cycle. That's
Mm-hmm.
where perimenopause and menopause. Menopause is your cycle has stopped. 12 months of no cycle, you are in menopause. All of that time prior to that 12 months, you are in perimenopause.
Okay.
And for many, it can last from 7 to 10 years.
Wait. What can last 7 to 10 years? Are we talking about Perry can last 7 to 10 years? Girl, you got to clarify what is last.
Yeah,
Those are
no,
long numbers.
those are long numbers. Yes, perimenopause can last 7 to 10 years. And unfortunately, it tends to start earlier and last longer and be more severe for women of color.
Dang, we always getting the short end of the doggone stick. You said it can be more intense and last longer for us?
Hmm. That I do not know. But I will actually do more research on the why. But the studies have shown, and I have actually looked at some of those college studies, university studies, and medical things, and that's what it says.
So we know that menopause starts, and let me know if I've got this wrong, because when my gynecologist told me this, I was kind of mad at her a little bit. I love her though. I love her. If she's listening, I love you. Um, but I was kind of upset with what she said, that you had to have 12 months without your menstrual cycle, and that's your cue that you're in menopause. So what's the cue that menopause is over?
You, it's always, once we're done, we're done. So we're always in menopause. It's sort of like a thing in the stand. It's 12 months. Think of it as an anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
January 1st, 2025, you've had a cycle every month. If you've not had a cycle and then January 1st, 2026 comes, you are in menopause. Once once you have reached menopause, then it's not then described as post menopause because then it's after your cycle started.
Dang. So are we in some form of menopause all the rest of our life?
Are we in some form of menopause the rest of our life?
Because you mentioned like the post menopause, girl. Oh, child, you,
Okay, let
girl.
me let think of it this way. You had a hormone, you no
Mhm.
longer have it. Once you no longer have it for the rest of your life, you don't have it.
Okay,
So that's your postmenopause. Postmenopause is you went 12 months and now it's
and now
over.
you're done. Okay.
You're done with the cycle. So now you're in menopause.
Uh-huh.
And then but those hormones are still gone. So yes, for the rest of our lives, that's where we will be. The thing is, as with anything, each of us are different. Some women have no symptoms. Some women have light symptoms. Some women have more difficult symptoms
Mhm.
because they're still having hot flashes and those kinds of things. And that's one of those, our society, and even we as humans, we tend to always look at the worst. We
Yeah.
see it, we see it, we hear it's so, so bad, so, so bad. And I have to challenge you. Did you not have girlfriends who, when their cycles came, it came, went, light, they had no problems? And then on the flip side, you had some who were in bed in cramps every month. And then you had everybody in between.
Hmm.
It's no different. We always hear about the worst case scenarios.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear about the person who, I didn't have any symptoms, and everybody looks at them and say, "What?"
They're like,
Nobody wants
helpful.
nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that because it's not news. we
Right.
we want to compare ourselves to, oh, this could be me, when it's like, no, it could be you who has minimal, who goes through this thing with nothing.
Right.
But during that time, whatever, whether it be the light, the medium, the heavy symptoms, difficult symptoms, it's nothing to be ashamed of because we have been given a gift of longevity. This is a gift. You have raised your children. Who do we honor? Our elders. We go to our grandmothers and those elders because they've got wisdom. They've got time to do, look. My logic is they've got time to have wisdom because they don't have to deal with all the other stuff. And so we
Right.
can sit at their feet. We can sit beside them and they can say, baby, it's going to be okay. And that's what I want to say to folks. Baby, it's going to be okay. You will make it through. Some days it'll be rough, some days it won't.
Hmm.
But don't feel ashamed at all because God created you to be fearfully and wonderfully made, and He has given you the gift of longevity because then you will be able to look back to your daughters and nieces, granddaughters, great granddaughters, and say, baby, it's going to be okay.
So when you started this menopausal journey, did you talk to your mom and the other women in your family and find out from them what all they had gone through?
So, my family,
Uh-oh, you laughing. Uh-oh.
my family are the ones that nobody wants to talk to. My family are the women who had babies that they'd have them in the elevator, that they'd have them in the car, almost in there, that they'd get to the hospital and the doctors say, oh, it's the first baby, it's going to take hours and hours and hours. And my family just dropped them.
Whoa.
That and that has been my aunts, my grandmother, my mother. And so I just made the assumption that should I ever do that, or have been blessed to be able to do that, that would have been my story as well.
Hmm.
So when I was asking the questions, yes, I did ask, what symptoms did you have? And everybody said, what are you talking about? They didn't have symptoms. Cycle was there, cycle was gone.
What?
So my family story is not the ones, but I asked and everybody had it. Here's the other caveat though. Just because everybody else had it one way does not mean that you are as well. You might, because I'm the only one out of all the family who actually had female problems. Nobody,
Wow.
nobody else did. Just me.
Wow. So nobody else had any symptoms that they remembered, and you over here hearing trains.
I'm hearing trains. I was the one with the endometriosis, the severe
Mm-hmm.
stage 4 endometriosis. Nobody else had endometriosis. Nobody else had fibroids. Nobody else had any problems but me.
And was this on your mom and dad's side? Did you talk to both sides of the family?
It's only on my mother's side. My father's side was all boys.
Shut your mouth. Not a single woman? Yeah.
They died as youth, so they never made it to that. They never made it to that age to be able to even do that. But it was just all my uncles. But my mother's side is where all the sisters are.
Wow, Daria. So where do you think the shame comes from? Because it isn't really talked about, and we all know about, the hot flashes are kind of like the norm. Even men know about the hot flashes. They may not know all the terms like personal summer, that sort of thing, but they do know about the hot flashes. From your experience or what you've researched, why do you think there's a shame there?
I would The reason I think that there is a shame, there are a couple of reasons. Our culture, and I'm talking about the United States, is we care about youth. We care
Hmm.
about um, when we are in our prime. And we tend to push older people to the side. We're seeing it in job searches. It's like people, we see it. We see it in
Yeah.
Hollywood. It's okay for the men to get great. It's okay for the men to get the lines because that is showing um, experience and strength. It's okay for them to get a belly because it's like they earned that. But you hear them say that. You hear the men say, I
Hmm.
earned this.
Hmm.
But you have never heard a woman, I bet, say, I earned this.
Hmm.
Or you've never heard us say, you typically don't hear Hollywood say, oh, we want to use older actresses. No, our culture does not. We like youth.
Yeah.
Now there are other cultures like the Japanese culture, the Indian culture. They don't have the same thing that we do because they revere the aging process. They revere the elders. And so that shame of you just don't talk about it. What goes on this house stays in this house. What goes on in your body stays. You don't share it. And I think that combination is what I want people to not to feel comfortable. I'm not saying shout it from the rooftops.
Right.
I'm I am saying talk to someone you trust. Talk to a girlfriend the same way you talked about your pregnancy symptoms. There's somebody, and you can
Hmm.
laugh together. You can laugh together. You can commiserate with one another. But even then, you've got someone to say, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm noticing." They may say to you, Go have it checked by your doctor. Issue in regard to the doctors, because we tend to not share what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke earlier about, we Google stuff and we think it's bad, or we go to the doctor and we tell them and they poo poo. You're too young. That's nothing.
Yeah,
That means this. We have to advocate for ourselves. And again,
absolutely.
as women of color, we have to advocate. So if you have a doctor that when you share with them, these are my concerns, and they brush you off, I think it's time to start looking for a physician who will listen to you. Yes, you may be younger than what the average is, but everybody knows an average is the majority. That's the bell curve. You got some
Yeah,
outliers that are over there. So have them, it's like, look, I could be the outlier. In my family, I'm the outlier.
yes, you are.
I am the outlier. So ask the doctor. It's like, do the test, see what your hormone levels are. At least you'll have a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's that shame that, oh, the doctor didn't believe me. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's in my head. It's not in your head. You know your body.
Right.
You can open your eyes after sleeping in the night, and you open your eyes and you can tell, "Oop, I've got a headache, or
Mm-hmm.
something is coming. I can feel a cold come." You know your body. There's no need to be ashamed of your body.
Right.
It's yours.
Right.
Fight for it.
Right. So, everybody, as we get ready to wrap up, this hour per every Tuesday goes by so quickly. You can get tests, from what I'm understanding, Daria, to test your hormone levels. Talk with your primary care. Talk with your gynecologist. Don't be, when they have you fill out the forms, don't be lying. Don't be lying. Tell the truth. And even if there's something not on the form that you're dealing with or experiencing, talk about it. Don't just, brush it under the rug and say, "Oh, that's nothing. Everybody goes through." Listen, even if everybody do go through, I don't want to be everybody. Because I don't want to. I don't want to go through. I don't. I don't. I don't want to hear trains when there are no tracks. I don't want to be so. I don't want to be so hot that I got to come out of my clothes. I don't want to do that. So pay attention to your body and don't discount anything. So Daria, as we get ready to wrap it up, tell the people, because I'm going to let you tell the people how to reach you, and then I'm going to ask you a question that the last guest left, and then you'll get to leave a question.
Okay.
So tell the people how to connect with you.
You can reach me at www.imstillhot.com. That's I'm Still Hot. And that is a double entendre, in that it has to do with hot flashes. But what I want you to remember, it does not matter your age. It does not matter. You are still hot. You are a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I want you to remember that. I want you to remember that you're still hot. So www.imstillhot.com. And on the website, there is the 8 unusual symptoms, and I may put the list of the rest of them. But you can also, there's the book, Perimenopause, What Your Mother and Girlfriends Did Not Tell You. And I wrote it as if I were your auntie, just talking to you. It's funny. So there are other funny stories. the I'm still hot coloring experience, which is a way to learn to relax. So there are games, there's coloring, all about perimenopause, and the bundle is the fan.
Y'all already know now you got to get the bundle with the fan. You got to get the bundle with the fan. Lord have mercy. With I'm still hot on it. Yes. Yes, I love that. And I put the website in the chat, and I will also put it in the comments after the podcast is over. But let me ask you this question, Daria. What is stopping you from doing what you've been purposed to do? Or is anything stopping you from doing what you've been purposed to do?
What is stopping me from doing what I was purposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
That I think I shared in that story that I wrote because that is exactly how I was feeling, and that
Mm-hmm.
many others are feeling, is that I stopped knowing who I was because I was taking on more for everybody else and not paying attention to myself. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I allowed fear, I allowed doubt. So I got in my own way. But it's at times like this when I am rejuvenated because I know people are suffering. People are wanting to know that I that's what I want to do. I want to encourage them to not feel shame,
Mm-hmm.
to have the conversations. And I want to be your perimenopause cheerleader. It's all right.
It is all right. And listen, if you feel the gumption, you should reach out to Halle Berry because you know she started this whole campaign about perimenopause. So you should tag her on all her social media with a picture of your book and say, "Let's collaborate, sis." I'm just throwing that out there for you. Now, what
Thank you.
question would you like to leave for the next guest?
The question I would like to leave for the next guest is if you could start your journey over, what would you do differently?
Mm, what would you do? Interesting.
And
If
why?
you Okay, differently and why? All right. If you could start your journey over, what would you do differently and why? So I will ask that of the next guest. And I'm scrolling through the chat, making sure that some of the questions that are in here are more medically based. So I don't want you to answer any medical questions because you're not a doctor and we don't want nobody talking about what I heard Daria say on Monday night. No, you're not. You're not finna do that. That's what you're not gonna do on today.
It's like go
So
talk, see your doctor.
go ask the medical questions to your medical practitioner. So Daria, hang on the line. I have got to make a quick announcement.
Okay.
So minding my business, mic drop family. Listen, I have a goal set for myself. I have decided to sell 200 books by midnight, January 1. So if you've got somebody in your space who's really trying to find out what their purpose is, I have a book for that. If you've got someone who needs to get organized, I've got a planner for that. If you've got someone they're like, I just got so much in my head, I need to get it out. I've got a journal for that. If you've got someone who's either wanting to be an entrepreneur or they're on that entrepreneurial journey and they need to be inspired and motivated, I've got a book for that. If you got a person who is just all over the place and they need to get focused and get their vision together and cut the chaos and the craziness out of their life, I've got a book for that. And what I am asking you to do is to help, because I can't do this by myself. Help me reach this goal. I'm going to put the link after the podcast is over. Come back and check the comments. I'm going to put the link in the comments. If the link doesn't open up on your computer, open it up on your phone. If it doesn't open up on your phone, open it up on your computer. Why? Because the security is different. All right. But I need your help. So if you can think of 2 people, not including you. So if you can think of 2 people plus you to purchase this book for and gift it to them, y'all help me. I need your help. I'm asking. Okay. I'm asking. So, Miss Daria, thank you
Yes.
so much for being a part of the Minding My Business Mic Drop. We appreciate your wisdom. We appreciate your transparency. Y'all definitely reach out to Daria if you have more questions. Don't forget about the book, the coloring book, and the I'm Still Hot fan. Hallelujah. That is your bundle. So until next time, y'all, next Tuesday, every Tuesday, we are going to light it up. I have more amazing guests. So don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications. And yes, we're still going to do the podcast the Tuesday before Christmas. Yes, we are. We're not going to miss a Tuesday. Everyone have a fantabulous week. And I will talk to you on next Tuesday.